Welcome to Unapologetically Sensitive, a place to find connection and a sense of belonging, where you can learn, relate, laugh, and maybe even live a bolder, brighter life. I'm your host, Patricia Young. This is a weekly podcast where we talk about sensitivity and the richness that it adds, the strengths we have because of our sensitivity, and some of the challenges it poses as well. The information in this podcast is not a substitute for help from a licensed mental health professional. Hey there, to the creatives, healers, sensitives, and deep thinkers. I'm so glad you're here today. I am so over the moon excited about this interview with Karen Drucker. I have loved her music for years, and if you haven't heard her music, I'm going to put some links in the show notes. At the end, my plan is to play out one of her songs. There are so many amazing songs, I couldn't even figure out which one to use, but I've picked a song that I'm going to play out at the end. I just was kind of fangirling all over her the whole time. And Karen is a highly sensitive person. She's got 20 CDs out. She performs concerts all over. She does retreats. She has a book. It's just amazing. So you can tell I'm at a loss for adequate words right now. Karen talks about before she knew she was a highly sensitive person, she just felt really weird. And knowing about the traits of being a highly sensitive person helped her to adapt. I asked about the songs because her songs have been so incredibly healing and affirming in my life. And she's like, well, if you want to know what my issues are, listen to the songs, because she writes to herself and it's her therapy. So when she's felt that she's not worthy or she's stressed out about time, many of her songs are affirmations to herself, and she asks herself what words would comfort her. Right now, she's doing a lot of work around health and cancer and recovery and your inner critic. So when that stuff comes up for her, she's like, let's focus and make a song. And she talks about when we sing, music bypasses the brain and it goes into the heart. Literally, it creates more oxytocin, and it's like doing musical meditation. We also talk about creativity, and she talks a little bit about how she uses her creative process. And what I call my gremlins, she has named her inner critic, and it's Zelda. And she talks about Zelda, and we talk about what do we do when we're having those fears that say, who are you? And why would anybody want to listen to what you have to say? It's just an amazing interview. I'm still kind of riding the high on it. And there's a little surprise at the end that you'll hear about, and I'll come on at the end and talk to you a little bit more. Let me tell you a little bit about Karen Drucker. Very few people can say that they have been a singing mermaid, a singing casket, and was literally, quote, elevator music when she was hired to sing and play piano in a moving elevator. Meet Karen Drucker. Karen has recorded 20 CDs of her original inspirational music and is the author of an inspirational book, Let Go of the Shore, Stories and Songs That Set the Spirit Free. Among her many accomplishments, she has been a professional comedian, led her own band for corporate events, and has been the music director of the New Thought churches, as well as music director and music weaver for many spiritual conferences and retreats. Karen has been honored with an honorary doctorate of music for her work within the religious science community and a Grace Note Award for her work within the Unity movement. In following her passion, Karen sings, speaks, and leads workshops at women's retreats, mind, body, and health conferences, and various churches around the country, as well as working with authors like Joan Borsenko, Alan Cohen, and many others. Karen Drucker has been called a master of communicating presence and spirituality through music. She loves making music, making a difference, and touching hearts. And you can find her at karendrucker.com. If you're enjoying the podcast, if you can please continue to share it with other people. You guys are doing an amazing job. More and more people are listening, and I really want everybody in the world to know about the trait of being highly sensitive. Yes, it has some challenges, and we have amazing gifts to offer the world. So I really, really want people to know about the trait of high sensitivity. So if you're comfortable sharing the podcast, that would be great. If you're comfortable rating and reviewing it, that helps more people find the podcast, but I know that can be a pain in the neck. So let's hear Karen Drucker. On to the show. Hey, Karen, welcome.
I'm thrilled.
I think I'm more thrilled. I'm totally fangirling. When you You actually called me on my phone and I missed the call, and then you called me the next day. I felt like a child that was so incredibly giddy I could hardly stand it.
Oh, you're too cute. That's so sweet.
I always wonder if if that creeps people out when they hear that, or if that's like I totally mean it from the most admiring, honoring place, but I just wonder, does it creep you out when you hear that?
I think it's just incredibly sweet, and I actually never can really understand it. I don't really I don't really get it because I'm just kind of doing my little life here, and I've got all my little issues of my own. And when people go, "Oh my God, I'm meeting you," it's like, well, I'm meeting you.
I totally get that, because you're just showing up and being you in your life with all of the things that go on in your life. And you have such an impact on other people. I've known your music for years and have loved it. I don't keep much music on my phone, but I always have your music, because if I need some balm to soothe my little HSP soul, like, it's there. And so it was a big ask for me to reach out to you. And then when you called me, oh my gosh, talk about a big time happy dance. So thank you so much.
Oh, that's great. Well, I'm so glad you did, reach out to me, because this is the subject that is near and dear to my heart. It's something I deal with personally and professionally all the time. So it's a great. I never had this conversation. It's very rare when I get to really talk about this stuff. So it's fabulous for me.
Well, yay. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you a couple of the typical questions, then we'll go into another conversation, and then we'll come back to some of the HSP questions. Are you okay with that?
Sure, you lead it however you want to go. I'm fine.
All right. Do you identify as a highly sensitive person?
Totally. Completely.
When did you find out you were an HSP?
I never knew that there was a term for it. I just knew that I was weird. I just always felt, why am I different than all the other kids? For me, I would come home. So I grew up in Hollywood, in Laurel Canyon specifically. And I would come home, and where most kids were going out and having play dates and wanting to be with other kids, I would take my dogs. I had 2 dogs growing up, and I would just roam the canyon, taking these long walks and sitting and looking down at Los Angeles. I would sit on a hill with my dogs, and just be quiet and just love being alone. I mean, I would come home from school and like immediately just want to go walking and being quiet and being alone. And I realize now that that's typical behavior. Just like, you can be with people, but you need to have that retreat alone, filling up your well time. And that's what I was doing. But I never knew until I was an adult. I started reading about some of the stuff that I was like, oh, this makes sense of why I am the way I am.
Sure, sure. I felt like I was an old person, like I was just born with an old soul, and really connected much more to adults than I did to kids. And
yeah, me too.
Loved being at home. Like, home was just my safe, content, happy place.
And it is still for me to this day. I mean, it's like I am the happiest when I'm home, alone, puttering, just quiet. I mean, people always ask me, since I'm a musician, they always say, well, who do you listen to all day long? I never listen to music. If I do, I have one artist that I listen to a lot, and her name is Marina Ray. And she's this beautiful, she has all these like meditation type of CDs that are, she plays flute, and there's streams in the background, and ocean and owls, making their noises. And it's just this really soothing music. And that's like all I can listen to. But I usually have quiet. I'm always quiet.
Yeah, I used to listen to music all the time. I work from home, and I almost always have it quiet here, and I just really enjoy it. So I hear you.
Yeah.
When did you learn that you were a highly sensitive person?
Well, I would say that when I first read Elaine Aron's books, that when she was really it was like you open up the book and she has a checklist for you saying, do you this, all these things. And I just went down the list and went, oh my God, I have every single one that she's talking about here. I just checked off the list, and that intrigued me to really read the book and see what it was all about. And, there's something to me about it's funny because it's like, on one hand, I don't like labeling something, because then it's like you then become that label sometimes. But in this case, when I was able to have that label, in a sense, of being, a highly sensitive person or an introvert or whatever, it just relieved me. It just made me feel like, oh, this is why I am the way I am. And there's nothing wrong with me. It's just different. This is just this is what my makeup is. And, whenever I have this conversation with people, which is pretty rare, they always just look at me like I'm crazy, like, well, you don't seem to be that kind of person at all. You're out there, you're doing keynote talks and doing concerts in front of big groups of people. And yet, when I read that book, it just made me feel so much more validated of knowing that I've got this one side that is this way, but I have another side that is another way. And that other side is the one that's talking to you right now. I mean, it's actually the combination of both. But like when I'm in work mode, when I'm going to do a concert, I know how to do that. And I'm being authentic. It's not like I'm putting on a mask and hiding this introvert person. This other part is who I am as well. But when I was able to label it and understand it more, I was able to give that other side of me the same amount of love, attention, care, validation that the other side was getting. So I just know that I have these two sides. One is a person who can be in front of large groups of people and be very social and talk to lots of folks when when they're coming to talk to me after my shows or something, and leading my women's retreats. I have no problem doing that. But I know that I have to balance it with the other side of me, which needs quiet, alone time. That's why I love my swimming that I do every single day, practically, because swimming it fills up my tank. I take walks in nature and, I do all these different parts for that part of me that needs the quiet.
Right. And a couple things. If you're new to the podcast and you're not sure about what a highly sensitive person is, or you're curious about this test, I'll put it in the show notes at unapologeticallysensitive.com. But if you go to hsperson.com to the self-test, you can take this quiz to see if you're a highly sensitive person. If you suspect that you are and you don't rate in the range, Dr. Aaron suggests to take the child version of the test and think back to when you were a kid and what you heard about yourself, because sometimes these traits go buried. And Karen, what I hear you saying is I think that people hear, sensitive, and they think of people that are crying and emotional. And if we go to Dr. Aaron's 4 core characteristics that make up the highly sensitive person, there's depth of processing. We're deep thinkers. There's over-arousal and overstimulation. We have finely tuned nervous systems, and we pick up on everything in the environment. Then there's emotional responsiveness and empathy, and then sensitive to sensory stimuli. So we've got all of those, and we've got these finely tuned nervous systems. But like you said, it doesn't mean that we can't show up in the world fully ourselves, for you as a performer and being social. And then we need time to recharge and reset because we need that downtime. So I guess my next question to you is, what do you think of the term highly sensitive person?
I think that's a really interesting question, because you're right. I didn't think of it that way. If you say that to someone, I can imagine, I have said it to people and they kind of raise their eyebrows like, oh, you're so sensitive. It's like they just kind of mock it. And you're right. Sensitive, it doesn't mean sensitive like I'm walking around crying all the time. It just means exactly what you said. That was a great definition of my body, my being is acutely aware of stimulation. Just too much stimulation for me it will put me on overwhelm. I don't really know highly sensitive person. What? That's a really good question. I've never really thought of it that much, of what I think of the term. I just know that, as I said before, just when I heard that term, it was like, oh, everything made sense. So, but I actually think it is a good term, because you are really highly sensitized to sounds and people. I walk into a room and the empath in me, that I'm a highly empathic person, as most sensitive people are, that, I can pick up on the energies from the people in the room. That's why it's so challenging sometimes for me to be a workshop facilitator, which is the main thing I do now. Because I can feel much more than before they even start talking about what's going on. I can just feel them. And, I am very sensitive to it. But the plus side of it is because I'm sensitive, I can be that much more aware and empathetic to them and meet them at a deeper level, which I love. I mean, I love doing deep work with people and watching transformation happen in these retreats. It's always great. But I think that term really, really does say it, because it's just got like you have little antennas out all over the place. And, I used to have such an issue, I would do a concert and I'd walk off the stage and I'd be standing at my table with people starting to come towards me, to buy my CDs and book and everything. And I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled that they're doing this. But all of a sudden, the room would literally start to spin, because I'm having all these people coming at me and they're all talking to me and they're asking me questions and they're wanting to talk to me about whatever. And there were times I really thought I was going to faint. Mm-hmm. And this is really when I started to study this trait more. I really started to read more about it, because it was like, I really thought, like, what's wrong with me? There were some shows that I used to just run to the ladies' room and just hide out in a stall until everybody had left. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It was just way too much. And so now, I've just learned techniques. I think it was being able to just go, oh, this is why this is happening. Just is too much stimulation. Okay, what do I need to do for this? And I think through the years, I've just gotten much better at it. There's also a wonderful person that I've worked with before, doing retreats with her and stuff. Donna Eden is a wonderful woman who does these. She has these books on energy medicine. And so she has all these different exercises about how you can keep your energy in. She has this thing called the 5-minute energy routine, which is on YouTube. And, you can even see this, but it's just doing little exercises of how I can kind of protect my energy so that I'm not taking on everybody's energy. That's really helped me a lot.
Yeah, I bet. I ask every guest, is there another term that you wish were used instead of highly sensitive person?
No, I actually think that really does describe it, because each word of that is just, it's really true. It's just a highly sensitized state that you live in. And I think for me, it's just owning it and feeling okay about it. So it's like the idea of using a different word. It's not even really about that for me. It's more a thing of just stepping into it and owning it. Because I think for a lot of times in my life, I've been embarrassed by it, and I would cover up. I would do things when I knew that a situation wasn't going to, when I knew the highly sensitive part of me was going to get triggered, I would do things to make sure that didn't happen. But in so doing, it would be uncomfortable for me to think about being totally honest with someone, to say, well, the reason I can't drive with you to this party is because, and I'd have to give this long explanation about, I need to be able to leave anytime that I feel like it's too much, and I don't want that to affect you. And, it'd be this whole long story. So a lot of times I would just make up an excuse of like, oh no, I have to come from another appointment, so it's better if I just meet you there. That's something I've been working on in my life, is just how do I not have to feel like I've got to run around and make all these excuses for what it is that I need.
Right. And one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about this podcast is really wanting people to know and understand about the trait. Because like you said, I don't agree. I don't really subscribe much to labels, but man, it was so reassuring to read stuff and go like, you mean I'm not a freak and there's nothing wrong with me? This is how I'm wired.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just naming it and understanding that this is what works for me can be so incredibly empowering.
Yeah. I'd be curious, what have other people come up with a different term in your interviews?
There are, and I like some of them, highly attuned, because we really do pick up on details and things that other people don't. I have a guest that came on and, she talked about in our brains, this is not exact numbers, but, in the highly sensitive brain, in an interaction, maybe 20 areas of our brain will light up taking in information where the non-HSP, maybe 5 areas light up, which is why often, like with my husband, we'll have an experience and I'll pick up on stuff and he doesn't get why I had this experience. And it's helping me to see like, well, I have 20 facts of data about this and you have 5. And so you didn't see the things that I did. And it makes sense why we tune into stuff that other people don't. Also highly perceptive, highly responsive. And I guess because sensitivity has such a negative view in our culture, I'm starting to have a deeper appreciation for some of these other terms just because they're a little bit more descriptive and it takes out that charge of, sensitive as being weak and crying. And I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, I agree. That's a really good point. I've never really thought of it that much because I just sort of was like, oh, good. I have a label. I'm thrilled.
Yeah.
But I think I like attuned. Like I'm just tuned into, I mean, maybe this is the musician in me. I'm just thinking about tuning. I'm tuning into a frequency that other people are not.
Right.
So I like that. So yeah, that's great.
So I want to ask you about your music and the nature of your music, because I used you and I had a really rough weekend. And so I was listening to your music all weekend and this morning because it just is so healing and nurturing to my little tender soul, especially when I need some musical balm to soothe my little soul. Can you help us understand why you write about the things that you do and where that comes from?
Well, I would say that, how I start every one of my concerts is, I do a little joke about, well, you all get to see what all my issues are because this is what all my songs are. They're all my issues. The way that I write songs is everything that I write, I'm writing to myself. I mean, it's my therapy. It's my therapy to write these songs, to be able to say to myself, I put my hand over my heart and I go, what do you need to say to yourself today? So many of my songs are based on, I'm going through something, I'm not feeling worthy, I'm getting stressed about time, I'm not feeling healthy, I'm not, whatever it is, I take that feeling and I say, what is it that I need to say? And I turn it around to be an affirmation. And from that affirmation comes a song. And at the same time, a lot of what inspires me the most is thinking about people, like exactly what you said, that there's someone out there that's having a really hard time. What words would comfort them? And specifically what I've gotten into that is, I would say, is my main focus in my music these days is working with people who are going through health challenges, to going through cancer treatments or recovery or, anything where you just have that little inner critic voice of you panicking or saying, oh my God, thinking the worst thoughts. And so what I'm trying to do with my music is saying, no, let's focus down on this and let's sing about it over and over. Because when you sing about something, when music, I mean, one of the main lines that I live by is that music bypasses the brain and goes right into the heart. And so when you are chanting something, when you are singing something over and over that's really repetitive and easy, and you can sing it along with me, that it will just bypass that chattering mind and go into your heart, and you can literally start to have oxytocin get released and you start feeling better. The breathing, it's like a meditation. It's a musical meditation is what I call it. And so when you're breathing and singing these affirmations, you can really start to just feel this slight shift. And that's when healing can happen. Really specifically, I'll give you one, little story that I had a time when I was beating myself up for something. I had done something really stupid and I called a girlfriend and I just said, oh my God, you would believe this stupid thing I did. And I'm just just raking myself over the coals. And she said, stop. I will not have you talk to my friend like that. She said, the bottom line is, would you talk to a child the way you're talking to yourself right now? She caught me. She said, right now, I want you to think about that you are this baby and that you're going to nurture that baby that just did something bad. And you're going to just say, it's okay, little one, you're okay. And so I got off the phone and I started to rock myself like I was an infant. I just started to rock myself. from that, I heard this line just saying, be gentle, be gentle, be gentle, hold yourself like a newborn baby child. And so from that came my little chant that just says, I will be gentle with myself. I will be gentle with myself. And I will hold myself like a newborn baby child. And I just kept singing this over and over. And, I wrote it down. I got the music within 2 minutes. That song, I play at every one of my retreats because it's like we all need to remember that. Because one of the other lines in the song is, I will be easy on myself. When that inner critic comes up, you say, no, 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 I will be easy on myself. I will be easy on myself, and I will love myself like a newborn baby child. The other lines are, I will only go as fast as the slowest part of me feels safe to go. I mean, all those lines just give tenderness to that part of us that just wants to just beat up on ourselves. So when I write songs, I'm writing them to myself, but a lot of times I'm writing to other people that I'm thinking are going through a hard time. And that's what will motivate me to keep doing it.
I love it. I teared up. I was listening to the song that you sang this morning. I was listening to all of your music. Well, not all of it, but a good part of it. I teared up just when you were singing. It just speaks right to my little precious soul. And I just love that. Do you find that you do your writing more when you're struggling than when you're in a good place? Good is judgmental, so I don't know what a non-judgmental word would be.
I would say I write from all perspectives. Mm-hmm. I mean, it cracks me up because I'm going to have 20 CDs out at this point. And I'm thinking, when did I do these things? When did I write these? I mean, I have like no memory of doing this stuff. But a lot of times I'll write on an airplane, I'll just be sitting there and I've got time and I'm looking out the window and I'm coming up with lyrics for things. But, I feel like a lot of what creativity is, and this is the kind of stuff I teach in my workshops. Creativity is just really, it's an allowing yourself to be open to it. So I feel like I have this little magic butterfly net that is always with me. So I'm always, as we talked about before, the word attuned. I'm always attuned to what it is that I hear in the world. So I can just hear somebody say something and I go, ooh, song title, or ooh, great lyric, and I'll get my little net out and like grab that line and write it down. And that's how I have so many songs. I could write every single day. I mean, I have a notebook that's right next to me in my bookshelf I'm looking at that is so thick with all these butterfly net ideas that I just have never taken the time to develop. I think that everyone has this potential to listen to what you're saying, what other people are saying, and come up with ideas for songs. Mm-hmm. And that's why I love writing chants, because when you get a really good affirmation, it can be like one line. All is well, I am, what is it? It's like 4 lines. All is well, I am blessed. I can't remember my own chants. But I mean, the basic thing was like, I wanted to affirm all is well. Mm-hmm. So I just came up with this little simple chant of saying all is well, I can rest, I am safe, all is well. That's what it is. But, I'll just look at what is it that's going to make me feel better in this moment. And that's what I'll write about.
I love that. Have you read Elizabeth Gilbert's book, Big Magic?
Yes.
So what you were talking about reminds me of her. I'm probably going to do this poorly, but she talks about creativity and ideas are floating around. And she had an idea for a story. She didn't grab it and somebody else came up and created this story. So her philosophy is like, there's all this creativity that's just floating around and it's ours for the grab. Like you said, grab your butterfly net and grab it. And that's what I hear you saying.
I love the one about the person who was out in her garden and she felt the poem was coming towards her. Did you remember this story?
I don't.
The poem was coming towards her and she literally felt like she could feel it coming. And I mean, that's just the image of this, like you're outside, you're puttering in your garden. And all of a sudden she felt this poem and she literally had to run into the house feeling like she was grabbing this energy. And she felt like by the time she got to the house, she grabbed it just by the ends of it, like by its toes. It racing out the door so that she could. And I think actually what the story is that she got it at the end, like the energy was passing through, and she got it at the end so that she did it backwards, like she did it from the bottom up. It was
Interesting.
some wacky story, but the idea that there's like this energy that's floating around, and if you don't grab it, that energy that needs to be put forth, whether it's a poem or a song or a book or this or that, is going to go find someone else. And so I find that I always have paper and pencil with me, or a pen or something, everywhere I go. It's in my purse, it's in my car, it's in my little backpack if I go walking. It's always with me so that if something comes, I can write it down. And because I've had it so oftentimes where I will do things, and this happens in my retreats, that I'll come up with a song on the spot and I'll say to someone who has an iPhone here, please record it because I'm not going to remember this in 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. It's just, it is. It's just like an idea plops down. And if you don't grab it, it's gone. So
yeah.
and I say this to people I work with all the time. It's like, it's so easy for them to say, oh, well, but you have talent doing this. And you must have studied for years and years, how to do music and how to write music. And, I don't have that talent, but you have all this stuff. And I say to everyone that it's what I just said a moment ago. It's that allowing yourself to say, I am a creative person. Because there's actually no difference between a chant that I would write and someone who's never written a chant before in their life. Because I do a chant writing workshop in all my classes and all my retreats. And the things that people come up with are so amazing. And I always say to them, okay, if you took $1,000 or $2,000 and you went into a recording studio and you had great musicians and great backup singers and a great lead singer do this would be at the level of anybody else that's doing this work. It's just the difference is I've chosen that this is what I want to do. I want to risk what I do. I want to put the money into it. I want to put it out in the world. And that's the difference. But anybody can do this. I mean, anybody. It's just a matter of saying, yes, I want to.
Yeah, creativity just fascinates me. And I think it's so easy for us to get into the comparison of, like for me with podcasting, I don't have anything to say. I don't have a point of view. There are other people that are doing it better than me. And I think so much of the time success is really about the willingness to just show up and do it, mm-hmm. and to really let go of what is everybody else doing and what are other people thinking, and just really know that we have a message and a gift, and to really trust and to develop that, whatever it is. It's not about waiting until you have the confidence and then doing it. It's about feeling the fear and doing it anyways. And that's what builds the confidence and the skill. At least that's my perspective.
Oh, truly. I mean, if I waited until I thought I was perfect, or if I thought I was really good, or that I had something so different than everybody else to say, I would have never done anything.
Yeah.
I don't look at what I'm doing. I mean, I'm in the same position as you. I have all those same thoughts about what I do. Every single time I go into the recording studio, I go, why am I doing this? Who cares? No one's going to listen. I mean, I'll have all that inner critic stuff come up, and I'll compare and all that. But it's just, there's my spirit inside just is always challenging me to do it, to just keep showing up and putting myself out there. And the fact that anybody knows who I am or likes my music is just a thrill.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just, it's very much, it's just something I need to do for myself. I mean, I wrote a book a few years ago, and I remember just my inner critic was going insane because I worked with all of these authors. I would do music for all these famous authors. And I remember this critic coming in my head just saying, well, who do you think you are? Mm-hmm. You're just the musician. You're supposed to be behind these authors. And, it's not your place to be, out there and, doing that. I remember feeling like, for some reason, I have a calling inside to do this book. I didn't know why. It was never part of my grand plan. It wasn't like I was fantasizing when I was a teenager of writing books. I mean, none of that stuff. But all of a sudden, it just got in my mind that this is something I wanted to do. And I remember when I was writing it, feeling like if nobody even reads this, that's okay. It's just, I'm following the muse here. I'm following what I feel like I need to express. It was a bunch of interesting coincidences that happened, and very funny stories of how it wound up getting published and out in the world and everything. But that was secondary. It was a matter of, I just need to do this. And then what was so funny, I love how the universe works like this. Before I had even really started, people started coming up to my table when I was selling my CDs going, so where's your book? Did you sell out of your book already? And I would hear this like week after week, people would be looking at my table and going, oh, you must not have your book. Can I get it on Amazon? Did you sell out? And I'm thinking, what book? I don't have a book. It was just like the universe just going, hello, knock, knock.
Well, that's what I was thinking, like the universe conspires and you had this thought and you put it out and what you say is kind of a series of just events. It's like, it's serendipity or it's part of what the plan is. And that when we show up and do the part that we're supposed to do without having that expectation of this is going to be whatever, I think that's where the flow comes. And then I was going to say success happens, but I don't think I even have the words to say what I'm seeing. But when we have a message and we show up just to purely share that message, the rest seems to fall into place.
Yeah, I mean that's what this career of mine is. I mean, I had this was not on my radar at all to do anything that I'm doing. It just wasn't. I mean, I just wasn't. I wasn't in any kind of a spiritual world. When I first started, I mean, I read all these different self-help books and some kind of spiritual books, but as far as singing New Thought churches and doing the whole path that I've done, it's really been about showing up and going, okay, what's next? What's next?
And my hope is that for listeners, that if you're feeling a pull to do something and you're having those gremlins that say like, who are you? You have nothing to say. Look at other people are doing something better, is to really grasp onto whatever your desire is and to really take the courage and move forward with it. And regardless of what the outcome is, it's about expression of energy and gifts that we have. And it can be such a scary place. What do you do, Karen, when, I call it gremlins. So your inner critic, your gremlins, the voices, what do you do when that stuff comes up for you?
Well, first of all, I think this is one of my main topics that I talk about in every retreat that I do, because I think it's our biggest stopping point of expressing ourselves and showing our light into the world, is that voice that comes in, and whatever you want to call it. I happen to name mine. Her name is Zelda. And Zelda the thing I've learned about her is you have to really look at it like your inner critic, or whatever word you want to say, call it, is there really to protect you. And, it's something that's not going to go away. It's just always going to be there. But if anything, what I've realized is that whenever I'm really going for something, when I'm doing anything that stretches me or grows me in any level, that's when she'll get even stronger. And so I've now really learned that when she's getting stronger, it's like, oh, good, I must be growing and stretching. And so the thing I think is such an interesting concept is, if you're not hearing that voice, you're not growing enough. You're not stretching enough. So it's like, if that voice is silent, it's like, where are you being dormant in your life? Where are you not going for it? Because when you start to go for it, whatever it is, it's going to get bigger. But if you could start to learn how to dance with it, as opposed to try and make it go away, and dance with it, meaning, okay, bring it on, babe. Come on, Zelda, tell me everything about this project. Tell me everything you want to say. And if you give her the space, as opposed to, I always call it beach balls. If you make it like you have 5 beach balls and you're trying to keep them, you're in a pool and you're trying to keep all those beach balls underneath the water, they keep popping up and you're just having so much energy trying to keep them under the water. So it's the same thing with your critic. If you were able to say, okay, bring it on, tell me everything about whatever I'm about to do, why I shouldn't do it. And you just give her the floor, and she's going to go, well, let me tell you, who do you think you are? And this person's better, and you don't have any talent. You're too this, you're too that, you're too old, you're too young, you're too this, all those kinds of things. And you just let her do it all until there's nothing left. And then you say, thanks so much for sharing. I appreciate that you care about me in this way. But one of my favorite expressions that I use now is, I know you were there and I hear what you say, but that is not my truth today. I know you are there. I hear what you say, but what you're saying, that is not my truth today. And the truth about me is that I am capable and competent. And I know this might be risky, but I'm going to go for it. I had someone give me an exercise that I've shared with many people, is that you can put in your iPhone all the wonderful things you want to say about yourself. Like let's say you're working on a project and this critic is coming up. Well, then you, in your iPhone, on your little message recorder thing, you just say everything wonderful, everything that you wish that your critic would just be saying to you, just about how fabulous you are, how talented you are. You could read poetry, you could do whatever it is that would make you feel good. And you just listen to this tape. You listen to this a few times during the day. And someone said to me, well, I don't want to listen to I don't like the sound of my voice. And then, you have to look at that and say, well, what voice do you think you're listening to 24/7? What if you change that voice around to be one of sweetness and kindness? I even wrote a song called Taming My Inner Critic, that while I was in the recording studio, she was telling me that the song sucked. And I had to just keep saying, stop it. This is about you. I've just learned how to just deal with her and just absolutely love myself up as much as I can when I'm doing something.
Yep. And what I hear you saying when you're talking about Zelda is you're using mindfulness. You're being really curious. Instead of telling her to go away or be quiet, you're using a lot of acceptance, embracing her, allowing her to have a voice so that she feels seen and heard. And then you get to say, thanks for sharing. And this is what I know is true. So it's like you're allowing that energy to move through you,
right,
as opposed to trying to push it away, block it, turn it into something that it's not, wrap it up in some pretty papers. I think there's, and I don't know that I can articulate this, I love affirmations. And when we have fears that come up, if we don't fully look at the fear, we just try and wrap it up and make it look like something else, that often isn't very effective. And so what I hear you saying is you listen, you look, you embrace, you're curious, you're mindful, and then you thank her for sharing, and then you move on to really what the truth statement is. And I think that's so incredibly powerful.
Well, and that's why I have a gazillion songs about, like, I've one, I don't have to be perfect. I'm doing the best I can. I give myself permission to be just who I am. And so that's like one of my favorite songs. I wrote it completely about this subject that we're talking about. I don't have to be perfect. I'm doing the best I can. I give myself permission to be just who I am. And so when you give yourself that permission, I think it gives all this space to just simply be. If you allow yourself to be, if you allow yourself to just have the permission to just go for it, yeah, you might stumble and fall. You might make some mistakes, all that stuff, but you're in the ring, you're doing it, you're going for it. And that to me is what aliveness is.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's almost having the expectation that I'm going to fall, I'm going to stumble, I'm going to make mistakes. I'm not supposed to do it perfectly. And I think, especially as highly sensitive people, we tend to have very high expectations for ourselves and for others. And so we try something and it doesn't work, and we're like, oh, I'm out of here, as opposed to what I call really lowering the bar.
Yeah.
And it's just about showing up. And even if the goal is to show up and fail, and to fail over and over and over again, because that allows us, if we struggle with perfectionism, it allows us to show up and just get the practice so that we build whatever that skill or muscle that we're needing. Because I think that wanting to get things right, wanting to have all the information before we make decisions can be a strength, and it can really prevent us, like you said, from living the life that we're meant to live.
Yeah. And I think there's so much about that idea of failing is bad. And I should really write a song about this concept. I think I have a few notes on it. I just haven't sat down to do it. It just, you have to be, let me put it this way. When I one of my most simple songs is I Am So Blessed, where the words are simply, I am so blessed, I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. And it goes much slower than that. But those little words, that's the whole song. I wrote pages and pages of all these other alternative things. I call it dumping lyrics, like you just sort of dump on the page, like everything you can think of. And then you have to keep honing it. So when that song first started, it was terrible. It was just terrible. It didn't come out like this, where all these people can sing this song. Now it's just like, I had all these other words and different melody, and you just have to kind of keep working. And it's almost like having clay, where you keep molding the clay to see what's going to work and fit right. And I mean, I cracked up on my last album. I had a song called Let It Go. I wrote pages on, well, why I should let it go and how can I let it go and all the reasons of letting it go, until finally I realized, Drucker, let it go. The whole song should just be a chant that says, let it go, let it go, let it go for 5 minutes. And that's what I wound up recording. I threw away all these pages of how it was going to have all these, explanations of this. And no, just people just need to sing Let It Go and put it in their body and just let it go. So I just find that if I don't allow myself to have things be bad at first, it's not going to lead me to where I want to go. You have to allow yourself to, I don't even really want to call it failing. You just have to allow yourself to stumble around a little bit and find your way. I mean, when I first started speaking, I read, some of my first talks, I think I just read from the page. And then I got to a point where, I would just put a few paragraphs on a page and sort of look over at the notes. And now I'm to a point where I can just get up, I can have a piece of paper there, but not even look at it anymore. And that's just simply from doing it over and over again. And sometimes being really bad.
Yeah. Well, it's almost like instead of thinking of it in terms of failure, it's like we're figuring out what works and what doesn't work. And how do we know until we do it? We figure out, well, that didn't work. So what do I need to adjust next time? I think that whole reframe, and it can be so hard when we're hard on ourselves. And especially if certain things have come easily to you all your life, that for me, that when I stepped into a realm where things did not come easily, it was really challenging because I expected everything to be easy and this wasn't easy. So forget it. But it's about building that muscle just by showing up and doing it.
I love this picture of, if you pick up 50 pounds for the first time, you're literally going to shake. Your arm is going to just shake. But if you did it every day, you would get used to it. And then you go to 55 and it shakes again. So the idea of showing up and just doing something over and over and over again is so much a part of it. And I think that's probably why I have such a passion about the message of being gentle and kind to ourselves, because I think as HSPs, it's like, if you're beating yourself up, if you're so sensitive to what everybody's thinking of you, it really is like you are keeping your light from the world. You're keeping your gift from the world. And the more you can allow yourself to be gentle with yourself and say, oh, it's okay, little girl, you're just doing the best you can. Let's just get out there. Let's just try it again and see if this other way works. You just keep doing that and showing up. I think that's when miracles can happen. And that's when people can really see your light.
Yeah. And what I love about so much of your message is it's really, like you said, it's about speaking to that little precious spirit that's inside of us. And I think our society and how we're raised is we look for that outside, whether it's through relationships or food or money or status or job or whatever it is that we strive for to get that sense of enoughness. And what I call recording and listening, which is what you talked about, is it's really about us creating that relationship with ourselves where we do that healing and we show up to give ourselves the messages that we need to hear, and telling ourselves the things that we wish somebody else would show up and tell us. Like, that's when we really get the healing, is when we can show up and be there for ourselves. It's a process. It's much easier to say than to do. And it can be so powerful.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
Yeah. Okay. I want to ask you some HSP questions. What are some of the challenges that you experience as a highly sensitive person?
I would say probably the biggest challenge I have is, how do I say this? I think being in situations with people who don't know that I'm an HSP and expect me to be a certain, like they see the way I am on stage, for example, and then expect me to be that way in my personal life. And if I then am quiet and I kind of go into that other part of me that is who I am, they will take it wrong. They'll think that I'm being aloof, or, I've had people come up and go, what's wrong? Are you okay?
Mm-hmm.
Are you okay? Did anyone say something? Are you upset or something? It's like, no, I'm just quiet.
Right.
and I have to sort of explain myself. And so I find that it's kind of what I was talking about a little bit at the beginning of our conversation, that I've found that because I don't want to explain myself, I, well, here, this is I'm going to kind of drop it down another notch. Because I don't want to explain myself so much, I don't want to take the time or the energy to say, well, this is why I'm feeling, I don't want to go through all that. I have found myself being inauthentic in that I will gear up to be, let me see if I can articulate this well. I will put on the mask that they want me to put on. I will be what they're wanting me to be. Meaning if they've seen me being, up on stage and I'm, funny and have all this energy and, I'm engaged, and now I'm at a social event after the show, let's say, and I'm quiet and I'm feeling like they're taking it wrong. I have found myself in the past putting on that show part of me. I will gear up to be like, oh, this is what they want to see. And I will be inauthentic to myself. I will not stay in that place where I want to be. I will go, oh, this is how they're wanting to see me. And I will put on the energy. Does that make sense? Do you see what I'm saying?
It totally doesn't. What was going on in my head is if you wrote a song about that, do you know how many HSPs, especially the introverts, would just love that? Because I can't tell you how many people that I interact with say, people go like, what's wrong with you? And it's like, I'm fine. Because people want to project their stuff onto other people. Right. I would guess, I don't know, but I would imagine that people have an expectation of who you are and how you show up based on their fantasies of you. I mean, I obviously had some of that because I don't know you and I'm fangirling all over you. So I had some expectations, which can prevent me from really getting the experience of who you are because of this idea of who I think you are.
Yeah. Right. Now I'm talking about in my professional world here, because it's like my friends, everybody that I know knows who I am and I'm fine. I have noticed in my personal life though, that if I'm doing something with people, like, I just threw out before, like the idea of a party, like I've had that before where people go, oh, well, why don't we pick you up? We're all going to some social event. Why don't we pick you up? That's where I would get hooked in, where I think, oh gosh, I don't want to be the person who's always saying that, I can't go to a party because I can't stand parties for the most part, and if I do go to a party, I'm the person, in the corner eating the, cocktail hot dogs, just because I don't know what else to do. I'll just be sitting in the little corner eating too much. I just noticed that I'll just make stuff up, so that I don't have to go into the explanation of why I can't go to the party or, why I need to drive myself to the party or all that kind of stuff. So I think that I think I have to be gentle with myself a little bit more in this regard of just not thinking, because I think that I have a judgment about, I don't want people to think I'm a pain in the butt, that when they ask me something, I have to have all these conditions or something. And I think I just have to honor that part of me that much more. I think as I've gotten older, I think there's definitely something about getting older and just kind of going, you know what, I don't really care. I want to do what what's going to bring me happiness here. And I'm not going to dance around to make other people like me that much more. I have a song called N.O. is My New Yes, which is my big anthem song. And it's kind of along these lines. And one of the lines in the song says, how good is my giving? How authentic, how true when I cheat me just to please you. Yeah. So that song has always been really important to me along these lines, because it's like, I don't want to cheat me just to make sure that you're okay. I don't want to cheat me just to make sure you like me, anybody, I don't want to do that. If I'm being inauthentic, authenticity is probably my biggest word in my life. So when I'm not being authentic, I can feel it in my stomach. I get a knot in my stomach that just goes, Drucker, what are you doing, girl? So I think that as I've gotten older, I'm getting better at treating myself with kindness and really just looking at what it is that I need to do for myself. And, it's getting easier, but I just really want to always be authentic. That's really the main word.
Yeah. And what I'm imagining for people that are listening that are identifying with some of the things that you're saying, that there's no right or wrong way to respond. And it really depends on the context and where you're at. Yeah. But it's also okay to say like, that doesn't work for me. I think sometimes we think that we have to make things really complicated and just go like, that's not going to work. And that's really okay. Because I think that we look to the other 80% that are non-HSPs and we compare and we think, why can't I be like that? And it's like, can't, I'm not.
Yeah. And I think it's identifying that and just really, I think it's within ourselves when we really, well, I'm going to speak for myself. When I really accept it fully, you're right. You don't have to go into stories. I mean, when you think about saying no to someone, NO is a complete sentence.
Right.
I think when I'm insecure, I will explain more or think I need to explain more. But you're right. When you really accept it within yourself, it's like, no, sorry, I can't do that. And you don't even have to explain why you can't do it. It's like, it's not going to work. So what's another alternative? And it's like not that big of a deal.
Right. What are some of your superpowers?
Let's see. I would say being kind to other people. I think that actually my the part of being an HSP really is a superpower for me, especially in the work that I do, of just that I can really feel people. They can say one thing, but I can feel what's underneath.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, on one hand, being an empath sometimes is really hard, but on the other hand, it really serves me because I can show up to friends and family in a way that is with an open heart and being able to really hear where they're at and support them. My sense of humor is a real superpower because it's what I have used all my life as a way to navigate.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think I'm just probably one of my biggest superpowers is I think I'm a really good friend. I'm a really loyal person. And I show up to the people that are in my life in a way that is loyal. I just feel like I'm just a really loyal person. I think being a sensitive person really allows me to take things that I feel, and maybe this is a superpower. Maybe I haven't even really recognized it, but to take all the things I feel and to put it into my creativity, into songs and stories and the talks that I do. And I think that's a really nice thing.
It's huge. I mean, I would say you're a healer. My personal experience is that your music is incredibly healing and soothing and reaffirming. And a lot of the wounds that I have about not being enough, not doing enough, your music just really speaks to that in such an incredibly healing way. So I would add healer to the list.
Yeah, I would say that's something that I don't usually include. And I think that I really need to, because that's probably the biggest thing that I hear from the world, from people all the time is that. And that's an incredible, I love hearing that.
Yeah, it's very powerful. Very, very powerful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And I think of Chip and Dale. Thank you. No, thank you. Can you remember something that someone said to you about being a highly sensitive person that felt hurtful or insensitive that you're willing to share?
Yeah, just exactly what you just said. Oh, God, you are so sensitive. Do you have to be so sensitive? Just go. I think my dad even once just said, go to your room until you can. How do you say it? It's like, go to your room and come out when you're not so not so over emotional. I mean, I used to there was a stage actress years ago, this drama queen named Sarah Bernhardt. Mm-hmm. Stop being a Sarah Bernhardt. Mm-hmm. That's what I heard all my life. Stop being a Sarah Bernhardt. You're so emotional.
So what would you want to respond today? Like if that happened today, now that you're in your adult self, how would you want to respond to that?
Well, I would probably say, that's your experience and you don't get who I am. Mm-hmm. Who I am is I'm not being overly sensitive. I am sensitive. I'm feeling these things. I feel deeply. I would rather be a person who feels deeply than be a person who's numb.
Yeah.
I would rather feel deeply. And so now I would just say, this is who I am. If you can't accept it, I'm sorry. I mean, that's what's hard about when you're in a family that doesn't get you. You're in that family. You're seeing these people all the time. If I've been with friends that didn't get me or relationships, love relationships, they're gone.
Yeah.
They somehow vibrated out of my life. I mean, all of my close friends are pretty much just like me. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I love is that, when you have friends that you really support each other of who you authentically are, it makes it so easy. And for example, I have this one friend that will make a date to, go have dinner or go have lunch or whatever. And we've literally made it that we just call each other. It could be an hour beforehand to check in with how we feel.
Mm-hmm.
You still want to do this? Yeah, sure. Or if not, no, okay, great, let's reschedule. As opposed to taking it personally. Well, what do you mean we've had this date on our calendar? It's like, I don't want to be with someone who doesn't want to be there if they're not feeling well or they're overwhelmed in their life or whatever. It's like, let's wait for the time that we're both available to do this. But when you've got people guilt tripping you and saying, why are you so, you're so sensitive. It's like, I don't want to be with those people anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. And often when people say that, sometimes I'd like to get curious, like, well, what does that mean to you being sensitive? What does that bring up to you? Because it really has nothing to do with us. It's really about their limitations or their beliefs. And because often in our families, we've heard it, we've taken it on, and then we continue to take that on when it's really not ours to take on anymore.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah. It's their stuff they're projecting on you, so It's fine.
Yep. Lots of projection. What would you want to tell your younger self about being a highly sensitive person?
That it's okay, that this is who you are, that you have to truly learn about yourself to see what works for you in the world and what doesn't work for you, that you really are fine, that there's nothing wrong with you. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing. I mean, I think I write so many songs about worthiness. I think that that's a lot of what I embodied when I was younger, was that I wasn't worthy, that I wasn't good enough, that I had to try harder than everybody else because I wasn't good enough. And I got these messages from family and society and stuff. I think that if I just was able to just take that little person, and maybe that's why some of my songs that you said that to speak to that part are little tender hearts. I think that's what I'm doing in a lot of my music, is reaching back to that part of me and just saying, you're good enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good enough. You don't have to try so hard. It's okay.
Yeah, I really think that many of us have that core wound of who I am is not okay. I don't matter. I'm not enough. I just think there's a lot of that. And I don't know if that's because if we had parents that couldn't attune to our needs and couldn't validate our feelings, like I have some ideas about where I think that comes from, but I see this wound so often that comes up.
Oh yeah, I do too. I mean, that's all my women's retreats are all about this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think you're right. I think it's just that the parents didn't know how to, I mean, I'm not blaming. I'm way done with all of that stuff, but I think it's just, for whatever reason, that core wound. And when we heal that, and I don't know that it ever gets fully healed, but if we can really just work with that energy of validating that we're enough and who we are is good enough, and each of our values, what we live, our qualities that we have are so unique. They're just so unique. When we can just really accept that, that's when the light shines. That's when it's just, you see people that when they're lit up, doesn't matter what their job is or anything, their social status. It's like when you see someone, I call them twinklers, that their little eyes, they're just twinkling. They have that fire, they have that lit up feeling from inside that they're giving their gift to the world. And it's another reason why I write so much about gratitude and service, these different qualities, that's what can get us out of that inner critic state, is when we just can focus on, well, what am I grateful for right now? Mm-hmm. What am I grateful for in myself? What am I grateful for in being an HSP?
Yep.
All those things, when you focus it on that, that's when that's when you can bypass all this inner critic stuff.
Yep. And I think it's really common that when we go through times that are very emotional or difficult, it's easy to go into that black and white narrative of everything sucks. And it's like, I really talk about it's both and. Yes, I can be going through some challenging things. Yes, I can be having a challenging time. And there are things that are always going well, things that I can focus on, things to be grateful for, that both can exist in the same existence or the same place. And I think that's really important to try and hang on to.
I agree.
Yeah. Is there anything about being a highly sensitive person that I didn't ask you about that you want to talk about?
No, I think you really covered it. I think this is a great service that you're giving to people. I know I know a few people in my life that will talk to me almost as if, like, you know, like saying, "Oh, can I talk to you about this subject?" Because they have no one to talk to about it. So,
Oh,
I'm going to definitely turn them on to you and what you're doing, because I think it's something that's under the radar for a lot of people, that they feel this way, but if they don't know about the books or what you're doing, or that there's a whole world out there of people that are like you, like us,
yeah.
you can feel really alone. And I think I have. And I think that the more I have talked about it and come to terms with it, and a lot of it is what I said before about giving yourself permission. I think that's a really big part of this, is giving yourself permission to trust your heart to know what it is that you want and what you need, and letting it be okay. Giving yourself permission to say, this is what I need to feel comfortable right now. And in being comfortable, I can then, share my gifts and do what I want to do in the world, but allowing it to be that you take the time to really say what works and what doesn't work for you. I mean, I know that, going to a big party and having a bunch of people talk to me is not high on my list. I'd rather be walking in nature, going to the beach and smelling the air of the water. It's just like, I know what it is that I need. And the more that I can get clear on that, the more my life works.
Right. My vision would be that people just accept all parts of them, the parts that are crabby and judgmental and have high expectations and are perfectionistic. And we get to really own and accept and embrace the superpowers that we have, because we have so many gifts to offer the world. And I really want to change the narrative around what it means to be a highly sensitive person into it is amazing. And we have these awesome superpowers.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
It's wonderful what you're doing.
Oh, thank you. Tell us about any projects that you're working on. And I didn't really ask you about your book. So if you want to tell us a little bit about that too, and then I'll put everything into the show notes.
Sure. Well, my book is called Let Go of the Shore, songs and stories to set the spirit free. So it's my story. It's my story of going from, being a wedding singer and living in Hollywood. I was the babysitter for Carole King's children when I was growing up, and that's how I got into music. And so it's all of these really short stories. That's available on my website. But the main thing that I'm the most turned on about right now is doing my women's retreats. And I love doing them. And the way that people can find out about what I'm doing is my website is just karendrucker.com. I'm actually trying to, speaking of being highly sensitive in the world, one of the things that's really a challenge in my work is I travel so much. And so I'm constantly, in hotels and on planes. And, so I'm actually really looking at, well, what would serve me even better to do this work? And so I'm doing more stuff around in the Bay Area, which I love. Mm-hmm. I'm doing one in October, on October 18th and 19th. I'm doing a women's retreat up in Marin County where I live. But I'm also doing one in England next year. That's going to be really fun. But all my retreats are listed on my website. And so I've got some bookings for next year that are going to be really fun. And if people go to my website, they can sign up on my newsletter, and I let people know where I'm going to be, but I also send out a free song every month.
Ooh.
Yeah. So I'm actually doing I think I'm going to be just doing some one-off songs, like just instead of like a whole album, I have some songs I'm going to be recording very soon. So all that information is on my website. So yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I don't want to end this conversation. I'm just so excited and thrilled to have you here today. And I have to tell you, it's my birthday today. And this felt like
you're kidding.
Well, it felt like one of the best gifts that I could give to myself to talk to you on my birthday. So thank you for this beautiful, special gift that you've given me.
Wow. Well, happy birthday.
Thank you.
See, and that's another example of how people do their birthdays. Like when I see people celebrating their birthday with like J-Lo just did like her 50th birthday party with like 300 people and, fireworks going off and everyone's dancing and it's really loud music and stuff. And I just cracked up because I thought, my birthday ritual is every single year at the exact moment I was born. This is in December. I have a birthday tape I do, and I talk for a minute into the tape recorder. I actually have a tape recorder that I do this with. I talk, and I'm by myself. I take myself out to breakfast, but I do this thing of at 9:43. I say for 1 minute what I want in the next year, and then I flip the tape over and I rewind it. And what I do is I listen back. I walk on the beach by myself and I listen back to what I recorded the year before. And what I do after that 1 minute of just what do I want in the year, I talk all about the year, everything that's been going on. What are my challenges? What are the successes? Who are my friends? What am I doing? And it's about a 20-minute tape that I make. And I just listen to this from the year before. And it's like this deep reflection. And then I make a new tape for the next year. And the whole day is just, it's basically usually by myself, so that's a total HSP kind of a birthday. So I don't know what you're planning to do, but I just think that giving yourself whatever you want and need on your birthday is like, it comes down to that permission thing. Yeah. It's like just you give yourself permission to this is my birthday. So why not make our birthday be like every day is our birthday? Yeah. What do we need every day?
Well, I love what you do. I do something similar to that at the year end with writing, but it's interesting. I've been feeling very meh about my birthday. I'm in this place where I think as I'm growing, a lot of the close relationships that have been very long-term are not serving me anymore. And I've let go of them, and there's space now for new relationships to come in locally. And I just don't, but there's space. And usually for my birthday, I'll get together with just a few close friends, have them over for dinner. And like, there's just, it's just not going to work this year. And I've really had some angst around that. I've had some attachment wounds that came up, like areas where I need to do some healing. And I took myself swimming this morning. I went to yoga. I walked the dog. And I really was enjoying just the silence of today and feeling like this year is really going to be about me learning how to show up for myself and to do some healing work that keeps coming up around some of these attachment wounds. And I really want to learn how to be here for myself and create space for new stuff. So it really felt like just transformational. And like I said, I'm totally fangirling all over you. So the fact that I got to talk to you on my birthday is just like probably one of the best things in my life. So thank you.
Well, and I don't know if this will work for you, but my retreat in October 20th, up here in San Francisco, that will be my gift to you. If you wanted to come up, I will give you that retreat as a gift.
Okay, I'm coming. I've already looked at it. Thank you so much. My eyes are tearing up. I will be there. I have to tell you, when my kids turned 16, you and Lissa Rankin had, I can't say exactly what it was, a weekend gathering up near where you lived. You recall it was 2016.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to come, and I was throwing a surprise birthday for my twin boys. And I really struggled about, can I go? Can I not go? And I thought, giving my kids a surprise birthday party and I can't go. So this just feels like it's totally full circle. Thank you so much. I'm just tearing up with gratitude. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, happy birthday.
Whew, it is now. It has been. It just got a lot better.
Good. Well, thank you for doing this wonderful work you're doing. I think you're truly helping so many people by what you're doing. And, that's one of the things when we think about comparing ourselves to people like, oh, will my podcast be as good as someone else's? And what do I have to say? All that stuff it's great that our little, minds throw up all that information. But the truth is, you are helping. You have no idea how you're helping people. Yeah. And that's what you're supposed to be doing. So it's like, there's that Martha Graham wonderful quote about, it's not your business to judge if what you're doing is good or not. You just have to keep showing up.
Yep. So, I'm totally with you.
Yeah.
Karen, thank you so much for blessing me in more ways than you will maybe ever know. I don't know. Maybe you do. I'm just grateful. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Have a great day.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey again. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. I am just still really riding the wave. I love the things that Karen talks about. It was just, I don't know, just an amazing interview, and what a great way to celebrate my birthday. And I told her after we stopped recording that I'd kind of cyber stalked her after we had, scheduled this interview. And I went and looked at the retreat and thought like, I really want to go. And I've been doing a bit of traveling for the podcast and the silent retreat. And so I wasn't really sure about this, but man, what an amazing gift. Do I feel blessed today? So I hope you enjoyed it. Please go check out all of the offerings that she has. You can go to YouTube and search her name, Karen Drucker. There are quite a number of videos if you want to get a sense of what more of her music is like. It is so soothing. I can't imagine it not resonating with you, but that's my value. I just love it. Jen Perry and I are going to be starting up our HSP courses again mid-September, and we are running the same course, but we're each running our own separate courses. You can go to unapologeticallysensitive.com. There's a tab for HSP groups, even though it's a course. Right now, my website is under construction, so if you go there and you can't find it, please check back. Hopefully it'll be up and running by the time you hear this episode. These courses have been transformational for the people that are taking them, and I'm going to be getting some testimonials. We're running to an end of one of the courses, but the feedback that I'm getting from people is they know what it's like to be a highly sensitive person, but to be in a group and hear other people talking about what they experience has been just transformational. It's very powerful. If you or someone you know thinks that you might benefit, we will be starting courses up again in September. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate each and every one of you. Today, we're going to end with one of Karen's song instead of our typical song. Remember, sensitivity is nothing to apologize for. It's our superpower. Have a blessed day.
May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. And may I be happy. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. And may I be happy. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. And may you be happy. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease, and may you be happy. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease, and may we be happy. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. And may we be happy. I am filled with loving kindness. I am well. I am peaceful and at ease. And I am happy. I am filled with loving kindness. I am well. I am peaceful and at ease. I am happy. I am filled with loving kindness. I am well. I am peaceful and at ease, and I am happy. I am happy.